Torah Or Vayakhel 178. First column, 15 lines in the end of the first column. The last thing now Rebbe was explaining that in order to have the level of Sefer Kolalmin internalized in Mamala Kolalmin in the person, so that's the whole inyan of Matzah with the 7 weeks, Sfiras HaEmer, 7 times 7, elevating all the parts of the Shabamis, and then through the level of Echad, Mesidas Nefesh, which is Bittul, which is the same concept as eating Matzah, through the level of Bittul, you come to the level of Shvuas Matan Torah. Okay? So he says, V'zeu inyan Matzah. Okay, V'zeu inyan Matzah Shinistav Alechu B'Shvua Aleph. Shal Sfira, that's why they were commanded to eat Matzah a week before Sfira. And even before Sfira, the day before Sfira is when we start eating Matzah. Ki Matzah is Kafya V'Bittul. Ki Matzah ein bo hisnasus. Matzah does not have this ego. Lias teifach ve'ela to be blown up and go up. V'gan ein bo tam. Kamei chametz. It also doesn't have a good taste like chametz has. I mean, like bread has. And he says, they're both connected. Something that has a good taste is gaiva. Something that doesn't have a good taste, then it's bittul. Shemi shein beyisnasus ein to limting tamba vidos. Here the Rebbe says a different word. A person that has bittul is not looking for reasons. Why? There's no reason. This is because this is what you're supposed to do. Like the story when the Friedrich Rebbe asked his father why by Maidani you put your hands together like this and bow your head. So he said why. He called him the simple guy and he said to him, how do you say Maidani? He said like this. He said why? Because that's what you do. Because that's what my father told me to do. The Rebbe Hashem told me you don't need reasons. Like even in parenting that people don't know how to do. But parenting, a lot of times kids ask why, so you have to tell them why. Sometimes the parent has to say, because I said so. There is no other reason, but because I said so. So he said...
Don't we do the whole Torah because he said so?
Yeah, but sometimes there's mishpatim also, there's nishma, there's also concept of understanding.
Also mana had all the tastes, so taste is not...
Yeah, but the man is the ultimate bittul. That's why you can have all tastes. If man would have a particular taste... Right. So therefore it has everything in it. That's from the level of bittul. If you have bittul, you have everything. That's the level of matzah before Kabbalah Torah. Like it says, the nafshi kafar l'kol tihya. It says in the Elokai Nitzon, Shemon Esrei, my soul should be like dirt, meaning I should have bittul, and then psach libi b'seir sacha. And the Rebbe emphasizes many times, the Rebbe says it here. It's not stam, we say in the Elokai Nitzon, guard my tongue from evil, v'nafshi kafar l'kol tihya, I should have humility like dirt, psach libi b'seir sacha, open my heart in your Torah. The Rebbe explains it's the same thing. It's not two different things. In order to have psach libi b'seira sacha, in order to have our hearts opened up in Torah, you need to have v'nafshi ka'afar l'kol tihya. You need to have the level of bittul, and that's why by Matan Torah the Jews had fear. Be'emo bereses b'zeya, yeah, or like the Alter Rebbe quotes the Gemara from about the Rabbi. He cracked a joke. Chachamim laughed. V'achakach Yosef be'emtza. Then they sat with fear, and they opened up learning. Fear is the prerequisite for having knowledge in Torah. Why? Because fear is a level of bittul. When a person has bittul, then you're able to have psach libi. And that's why Chassidus explains, it doesn't say psach moichi. The expression, open up my heart in Torah is funny. Torah you learn with your head, not with your heart. But in order to feel Torah, feel it in your heart, that we're asking, open up my heart with your Torah, that had only the preparation and the prerequisite and the must before it has to be the level of bittul. Therefore, before Matan Torah, the Jews then it could be the level of ishapcha, the ispanim b'panim. V'nei, b'chinas o b'chinas iskafya, or l'maylam b'chinas iskafya. Now the Alter Rebbe is saying a different thing. He's saying in order to have ishapcha, transformation, you need to have the level of iskafya. So seemingly, first you break evil, then you transform the evil. Seemingly, then transformation is higher than breaking. Right? Because first you break evil, then you transform evil. He says no. The breaking of evil is even higher than the transformation. And that's why, when in the Basi Lagani, the famous quote, the Basi Lagani says, when you break evil, is stalik you reveal a level of godliness infinitely greater than the world. So the question, why does it not say hishapcha sitracha or iskafia vishapcha? It says in there, when you break evil, you bring down that level. It should say when you break evil, transform evil. He says that this level of iskafia is even higher than hishapcha. Gagam sheina mapecha samidas adayin, even though you don't break the midas yet, mikama kemeru batal mikol v'kol is completely bittul. Meaning, like you have bittul ayesh and bittul b'metzias. There's two bittles. It says batel retzeincha, asay retzeincha. What does it mean? Bittul ayesh. We learned this many times. Bittul ayesh means I really have my own will, but I give up my will for your will. Simple example, boss worker, the worker wants to do it his way, boss wants to do it his way. Even though you have a different will, you do what the boss wants, and otherwise you're out of a job, basically. Then there's another level of bittul, bittul b'metzias. Bittul b'metzias is, the master wants, that's what I want. There's no me here. What the master wants is Eved Neman versus Eved Pashut. So seemingly, Eved Neman, bittul b'metzias, is a greater bittul than bittul ayesh. Yesh means I do have my own desires, I do exist, but I give up my existence. The other way is I don't exist, complete bittul. Yet nevertheless, Chassidus explains there's an advantage in bittul ayesh over bittul b'metzias. Why? Bittul-wise, what is the stronger bittul? Not what you're but the aspect of bittul. Bittul, when you have your own existence and you break it, it's a much greater bittul than if you don't have an existence. Like like you said, what should I do? I don't want to learn. I mean, I do want to learn. So when I do want to learn, yeah, I'm bittul, but I'm not bittling it. I'm not being mevatel myself. I'm not breaking myself. So he says his kafir is breaking evil. Bittul ayesh. His sapcha is bittul metzias. Bottom line is there's an advantage, he says, because the bittul is greater. In the level of bittul. He breaks himself in the level of iskafia. In the level of malchus, what?
If the total bittul is what gets us there, why not have nothing? Why should we have matzah? If you have nothing, is it
because if I smack you in the face, you're not going to say, "Oh, it's nothing." I mean, we are people. We have a goof. We have a nefesh habamis, right? Trust me, we're something, in our opinion. So in our avodah, we need to eat matzah. The Hashem doesn't have to eat matzah.
Why not eat nothing? Isn't nothing?
Well, because how do you elevate the food? How do you elevate gashmias? Why was the Baal Shem Tov anti-fasting? Because fasting, you're not elevating the food that you need to elevate. Like this, you elevate the food.
What's a holiday without food?
Huh?
What's a holiday without food?
Right?
No holiday.
Huh? And you say, like, what's the holiday without J and B? Jingle bells? Anyway. He Okay, and that's the level of Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Leil and Void. In the beginning of Shayach V'Amunah, even before the Alter Rebbe starts Shayach V'Amunah, he says, what's the inyan of Shayach V'Amunah? To explain what it says in the Zayar, the two lines on top of the beginning of Shayach V'Amunah. He says, to understand what it says in the Zayar, that Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Echad Yichud Ilah, the higher level of Yichud. And Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Leil and Void is the lower level of Yichud. Yichud Tata. He says, that one level is to come to Echad Mesidas Nefesh Bittul, and then you come to a greater level of Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Leil and Void. If you notice, Shema has 6 words, Baruch Shem has 6 words, this ends with Echad, this ends with Voed. Voed is the Alter Rebbe says in Shayach V'Amunah, Voed and Echad are interchangeable letters, it's really the same thing. Aleph and Vav are interchangeable, and Ches is the same. And then Dalet, Dalet is the same. Ches and Hey are interchangeable. Whatever, the letters are interchangeable. So Echad is really Voed. Because what do we say, Baruch Shem? Kved Malchusei La'olam Voed, to come into the world. Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, there's no world. Baruch Shem means there's a world. He says, because Voed B'chlufi Asin Echad. Because Voed, you switch the letters around, you get the letter of Echad. V'amid Azal. Kol Mokum Shnemer Voed. Anywhere, Chazal, the Gemara says, anytime it says Voed, it's La'em She'en Hefsik. It doesn't have ever a break. Baruch Shem Kved Malchusei, La'elam Voed means Malchus never stops. Melech, Moloch, Yimlech. Was, is, will be. So Voed means it's never going to stop. It's always like that. That means, what does it mean? In Aveda, we bring down a level that we don't change for during davening and after davening. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains about a Beinani. But during davening, he puts the Shabbat to sleep. The problem is it wakes up afterwards. Which means, Alter Rebbe said, it's not ultimately real. It's not emes la'mitay. Because temporary, Voed Argia Loshen Sheket, Alter Rebbe says. Voed, temporary permanence is false. Can be temporary permanence. So therefore he says that what should a person reach in Aveda? That there's no difference between Teichat Tefillah Va'achar Tefillah Kol Hayom, because Shinuyim come from the level Vayimlech Vayamas, he ruled and died, meaning Klipa. V'zeu Truma LaHashem. That's what we say, you give a Truma LaHashem, Shubachinus HaBittul Milmato L'mayla, the level of Bittul from lower to higher. Okay, this is a long parenthesis, but let's start it. Huh? No, not necessarily. Officially, even though in Torah Or, not really, because Torah Or, the Alter Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek didn't write his glosses. Look at the Torah, the Tzemach Tzedek wrote glosses. And officially in Look at the Torah.
So Rabbi, Alter Rebbe wrote
yes.
And then Tzemach Tzedek corrected it?
No.
Or wrote the explanation to it?
So, and Tanya, or Look at the Torah?
In Tanya.
Tanya, the Tzemach wrote explanations. He didn't rewrite it.
Tanya is all Alter Rebbe.
So look at the Torah, except there's comments from the Tzemach Tzedek in it.
It took him 20 years.
Tanya took him 20 years. Correct.
The Rebbe doesn't have notes or
Sure.
in Tanya.
Sure. In fact, if you look at the beginning of Tanya, I think it was Toshim Yud Beis, the Rebbe wrote a letter. It's in the beginning of Tanya that he writes that it's planned that Tanya should to make Tanya like a Gemara, Tanya in the middle, and then one commentary like Rashi on the side, another commentary on the other side like Taisus, elaboration. Wow. Obviously, never happened. The Rebbe had comments on Tanya. It's printed in a lot of places in Tanya Mevoeres, and the different things they wrote down. The Rishimas, there was some stuff. In fact, a lot, believe it or not, the lessons in Tanya, there was a lot of comments there. Which Rabbi Weinberg, when he gave the Tanya Shah on the radio, said. That's why it's lessons in Tanya are very interesting, because the word Rebbe edited every word of it. I told you before he gave a Tanya Shah a Saturday night on the radio, for years, he would send it into the Rebbe, exactly verbatim what he's going to say. It's a radio for thousands and thousands of people. And the Rebbe edited every word. Sometimes he went crazy because he had to say it Saturday night, and before Shabbos began, the Rebbe didn't give it out yet. The Rebbe stayed sometimes when they worked on it Saturday night to give it out.
Who would listen to it?
Thousands of people in New York. It was on the radio, WAVD. The Rebbe listened every week. Of course, the Rebbe listened every week. The Rebbe since Snow listened every week to Rabbi Weinberg's Tanya Shir. And then at later years, he did partial Tanya, and he did the Sikh of the Fabrengen that week. That already wasn't edited.
2 days ago was Adam, Ha'adam. He took.
No. The Vav, next to Vav. The Ikra v'Shosha or Ikra v'Shosha.
6 months.
Right.
Who's Rabbi
Weinberg.
Weinberg is still alive?
No, he passed away.
That was in Yiddish?
He gave the shir in Yiddish. Then they made, and it came out lessons in Tanya in Yiddish. Then his kids, Shalom Ber Weinberg, Levi Weinberg, I know very well, they translated it into English. And then in Israel, they translated it into Hebrew. And in Russia, they translated it into Russian, and the different countries translated.
Now we have to translate to
Ukraine.
Ukraine. Is it true that you?
There was a chassid, Avram Parish, who was a big chassid of the Rebbe. He said that Talks and Tales, Talks and Tales? That was also edited by the Rebbe.
Yes.
Everything that came out of America was edited by the Rebbe. So he said, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But he said that Talks and Tales, because it was edited from the Rebbe, is greater than a Maimed that wasn't edited from the Rebbe. Because this Rebbe edited and this Rebbe didn't edit.
Rabbi, I have a series of Talks and Tales books. Do you want me?
No, why don't you read it? We have a set. Why don't you read them? We'll do you some good.
I have a hard time reading. This is too.
We learned last night not to hurt people in words. I will refrain I'll do a skafia now. Bittel, complete bittel. Not to answer you. What I really wanted to say, but I'm not saying it because I don't want to hurt you. If you would read more than you talk, you'd do much better. But I didn't want to say it because I don't want to hurt you. Okay.
And that's for all of us.
Take a seat. It's funny when I go to New York, a lot of times people come over to me that listen to the class and they say, who are those guys? Marty Beagle used to have those comments in the class.
Those guys, there's only one.
Marty Beagle. No, I'm telling you, Marty Beagle. One guy says to me, a bunch of guys, not one guy. They said to me, I got to come to LA just to meet that guy. Now they're going to tell me I have to come to LA to meet this guy. Okay.
Invite him over.
Invite him over. Okay. So he says like this. What's the avoid of the Jew? The avoid of the Jew is to have emes, right? Emes avoid means it's constant. There's no changes. One time I'm in the mood of this, one time I'm in the mood of that. I do it, I don't do it, I'm not. That's not emes. Emes is eternity, continuously. So he says, what's the avodah? That before davening, during davening, middle, after davening is all the same. By us, it's also all the same, by the way. We're not connected before, during, or after. But by us, at least we have emes. So he says, Shamshach gam kimchin shein lahefsek. Hanu kabbalah so malchus shemaim acceptance of the yoke. She'inyan oil b'chinas eskaf yo bitul ratzin. acceptance of the yoke. What is acceptance of the yoke? Kabbalah Soil is not transforming evil. It's breaking evil. That's what it means, Kabbalah Soil. Just like a yoke on the animal. What's the purpose of the yoke of the animal? That the animal can't go where it wants. It goes, straight where you're leading it. Because technically, Kabbalah's oil could really last a whole day. A person that has real Kabbalah's oil means the person's lifestyle is whatever I need to do, I do. So it doesn't matter what he's doing. It could be doing A, B, C, D, E. It doesn't matter. Whatever he's doing, he does it because this is what you need to do. He eats because Torah says now to eat. He does this because he has to sleep. Now Torah says to sleep. It's all Kabbalah Soil. So that action, by the way, is permanent. Maybe the love and the fear is more during davening than it is before and after davening, when you're in the world. But Kabbalah Soil, that could exist anytime. And that's emes, he says. And the level, though, of ava yashinui, but love changes. During davening, if you're davening properly, it's a greater level of love. After davening, when you're involved in the world, it's not. So that's what he says. Mailas bitul ratimis kaf yash lamayda yisei b'china zu v'she'ein bo shinuyim. There's no change, meaning it's constant. Avas Hashem changes. Davening more, after davening less. Kabbalah Soil, meaning complete bittul, that whatever needs to be done, I do. And by the way, in a way that it doesn't matter what you're doing, it's all the same by you. Not I enjoy this more, I enjoy this less. Even in mitzvahs, certain mitzvahs I like more, I do, better. I do more feeling, enthusiasm. Mitzvahs I don't like, I do less. And that's not Kabbalah Soil. Kabbalah Soil is, I'm doing mitzvahs for one reason. Only because Hashem said so. There is no more enjoyment, less, because then it's not Kabbalah Soil. Then you're into it. There's you involved. This I like, this I don't like. This I prefer, this I don't prefer.
The Rabbi is saying that Kavanah is more important than Maaseh.
Kabbalah Soil?
Kavanah.
Kavanah is Seichel. Seichel gets in the way of everything. The kavanah of davening is in order to stimulate the nefesh habamis, because Seichel gives birth to midas. Gives birth to midas, emotions. Okay. What happens if somebody has kavanah? Do you think how great they are? One isn't. One no. I love davening. I love this davening.
Because of myself?
What do you think love is? Love is selfish. Yira is much more bittul than Ava. Ava means, as Alter Rebbe says in Tani, Yesh mi sha'oyev. I love. There's an I that loves. If there's no I can't love.
In 42 degrees weather, Rabbeinu?
38.
What do you want to know?
I'm saying...
Is that bittul?
No, I'm saying...
It's called craziness. It's called craziness, not bittul.
That's me too.
But Nasiv and Ishmael, bittul is craziness. Correct. Because craziness is when you don't think about yourself, how crazy you are. A crazy person doesn't think they're crazy.
Craziness of Kedusha.
Getting a schmuck about being here.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What happens if